I'm Jeff Fitzgerald here from the Modev East Conference at the Gannett headquarters in McLean, Virginia. And with me is Andrew Duthie, the developer evangelist for Microsoft in the Mid-Atlantic. And what is going on with Microsoft? All kinds of really cool new products seem like they're coming out more than ever now.
So yeah, all kinds of interesting stuff. Some of the announcements I've highlighted recently on my blog, things like I talk about Kinect sometimes at my various talks, developing for Kinect for Windows, and we actually just recently announced that coming in early 2012, along with the commercial SDK availability, we're actually going to be releasing a version of Kinect specifically for Windows. So it'll have things like, for example, a near mode where it will recognize gestures and skeletons and things much closer than the Kinect for Xbox does. Kinect for Xbox, you generally want to have 4 to 10 feet or something between there. Well, if you're developing for Windows, you want to have a little bit more flexibility in terms of placement of the camera. So that was a pretty cool announcement. Been doing a lot of work around HTML5 and JavaScript lately in my role at Microsoft. So that things like the Internet Explorer 10 preview that we've got with the Windows 8 developer preview. There's a lot of nifty new features for HTML5 developers in that. If you go to ietestdrive.com, you can actually download the most recent developer preview. You can look at demos of the various features that are supported in IE10. So that's a good place to start. We've got a presence here from our Microsoft Public Sector team talking about Windows Phone. We got Joel Reyes is doing several sessions on that today. So.
Well, it sounds like there's multiple fronts are being revamped and renewed, and I mean just the adaptation of Kinect for the desktop introduces all kinds of crazy possibilities. I mean everything from being in games to maybe that's how we interface with our Word documents one day. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean there's a lot going on there. What is Microsoft thinking in terms of strategies being priorities right now? Where are you focusing right now?
So my focus primarily as a developer evangelist is in the web technology stack. So looking at HTML5, JavaScript, I've spent a fair amount of time around jQuery, around some of the JavaScript libraries. A lot of those libraries that are really helpful for doing the client-side work. The ASP.NET folks, the folks who are doing our server-side web development, they're really pulling those technologies into our ASP.NET MVC stack so that when you build an ASP.NET application, out of the box you create the new application and you get things like jQuery, jQuery Mobile, Modernizer, all of the things that make it easy to build rich HTML5 applications and to target those applications not just to desktop browsers but also to mobile environments. Those are things that the team is trying to make a default part of the server-side experience so that those folks who aren't necessarily just writing static sites but who are writing these dynamic MVC
fluid
applications
sites,
can take advantage of things like jQuery Mobile without having to go out and hunt down the various libraries. It's just there in the template to start with.
Well, that's terrific. Well, and this introduces one component of the conversation I wanted to touch on, which is mobile apps versus the mobile web. What is your sense right now of where things are going with that? We have thousands of app developers here. We have thousands of web developers here building for mobile. It's a touchy subject sometimes. What is, in your opinion right now, where are things going? Is there advantages to either or, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, I think that there are always going to be applications for which a native app environment makes the most sense. Browser-based applications currently don't fully match the native experience on any platform. Whether you're talking about Android, whether you're talking about iPhone, whether you're talking about Windows Phone, a native app can do things still that even with things like PhoneGap, a web application on the phone can't do everything you want it to do. And a lot of times that experience isn't as seamless as you might like it to be.
It's more risky, I think.
Right, but by the same token, if you're somebody who has web skills, it's nice to know that there are things like PhoneGap where you can create an application that can take advantage of some of the native platform features of the device that you're executing on while letting you leverage those HTML5, those CSS, those JavaScript
right, you're not
skills.
Losing things,
Right. So I'm kind of on the fence. I don't have a strong opinion about whether people should or shouldn't write native or web apps. I think you have to assess each individual application and determine based on the requirements of that application what makes the most sense for your app and the skills of your developer team. The skills of your developer team make a big difference. If you've got people who've got strong .NET skills, that may drive you in a specific direction. If you've got people who don't have mobile app development skills, but they have HTML experience, that may also drive your decision.
I think it does go back to the company and the individual situation that you're in, depending on how you want to develop.
Right.
I have heard, there's been some proponents of the mobile web over the last couple months that are basically saying that they believe that one day it's more standard, because whether you're on an Android or you're on an iPhone or whatever, you can have a similar experience. But my experience has been so far that hadn't always been the case. So
yeah, and I think the challenge with mobile web is the same challenge that we've had with web development for decades. I've been doing web development
right.
for more than 15 years, and the reality is that as much as all of us would love to get to a place where you write one set of code and it works exactly the same everywhere, we aren't there yet.
Yeah,
and,
we haven't found that.
Our goal is at Microsoft is that you should be able to write the same markup and have it effectively work the same across all browsers. The reality is that it's not going to be exactly the same, because not everybody's at the same state of support for all of the various standards that are out there. The goal is you don't have to write a bunch of different stuff to support different browsers. You just have an experience that either you progressively enhance or you gracefully degrade, depending on what platform that you're hitting. And if you're willing to accept that trade-off, then the mobile web works fine today, right? If you're willing to accept the trade-off that, hey, the experience may be different from platform to platform, but I'll have a basic set of functionality.
The core experience is the same.
Right, exactly. And so if you're willing to make that trade-off and you're willing to do the work to make that happen, it's practical to do some things mobile web today. And our goal from a developer tool standpoint is we want to enable the best experience from the developer standpoint, no matter what kind of application you're building. So whether you're building an HTML and JavaScript application, whether you're building an application for Windows, whether you're building an application for the phone or for the web, all of those things should be enabled simply allowing you to go and grab code off the web, whether it's sample code, whether it's our NuGet package manager that allows you to pull down libraries that you can include in your applications. All of those things are really designed, after the point where you've made the decision, am I going native application, am I going web, let's make it as easy as possible for you to get there.
Right. Well, now this is the portion of the program where we're going to geek out a little bit.
Okay.
Andrew, I want to hear about the Gadgeteer story.
So Gadgeteer is a fun thing. One of the focuses that I've taken on sort of as a sideline to my main focus on web and client stuff is working with the .NET Micro Framework and a new hardware standard out of Microsoft Research called .NET Gadgeteer. .NET Gadgeteer is designed to make essentially plug and play hardware in the embedded space. So what you get, I've got a kit from a company called GHI, and I've got their starter kit, which includes a little main board. It's got an ARM processor on it, a bunch of standardized sockets, 10-pin sockets, that are all labeled with letters. And each letter corresponds to the kind of module that can plug into it. So for example, I've got button modules, LED modules, camera modules, all kinds of stuff. So the idea here is to have a platform that enables rapid prototyping of hardware ideas for people who don't have electrical engineering backgrounds. Now, this is me to a T. I'm a software guy, and I'm mostly self-taught to begin with.
Right.
So the idea of a hardware platform that requires me to understand things like pinouts and things like that was a little daunting. With Gadgeteer, I can simply take the camera module, plug it into plug it in with the ribbon cable to the appropriate port, plug in a button, plug in the display that comes with the starter kit, and in about 10 minutes I've got a working digital camera. And the really fun project that I did, I've done a couple of user group talks on Gadgeteer recently. The really fun project that I did is I took a bunch of the modules, including an Ethernet module that lets me connect my Gadgeteer to a local network, and I actually broke out the soldering iron and made my own custom infrared emitter module. So what I did is I built an application for the Gadgeteer that would accept messages over the network, send them out as IR commands. Well, the end of the application sending the messages was a Microsoft Kinect hooked up to my laptop.
Very
so
cool.
Basically what I would do is encode the hand positions of my two hands using Kinect's skeletal recognition, send that over the wire as a series of zeros and ones, and pass that into the IR to emit to my radio-controlled helicopter. So my infrared-controlled, remote-controlled helicopter, I can simply raise my hand up in the air
that's wild.
and lift off that helicopter and fly it using Kinect. So no hands flying with Kinect. It's probably one of the most fun demos I've had to build. Interesting coding, And one of the cool things with the Gadgeteer, for example, the Ethernet module has built into it the idea of a lightweight web server. So
Very
all
cool.
I did was basically hook up a path for that web server that accepts the command from the Kinect, and then it's just a simple web call to send that
amazing.
information. Yeah. So
Well, I guess the only caveat there would be that no flies in the area when you're waving your hands back and forth. You might make a mess there somewhere. So, well, hey, Andrew, it's been really a really good conversation. I'm really excited about what Microsoft's doing.